Hello, and welcome to Doctor Who, the Troughton years, a celebration of some rare moments of Patrick Troughton's time as Doctor Who. Now, I'm here outside BBC's Lime Grove television studios, originally built as film studios about 1918. This is where many British films, including The Wicked Lady, were made. Now, in 1950, BBC Television acquired the premises from the Rank organisation. And from 1966 to 1969, whilst Pat was the Doctor, he worked here many times. Here's how Pat first appeared as the Doctor, taking over from William Hartnell. That regeneration excerpt is the only remaining material, as far as we know, of the final episode of that story, the 10th Planet. Of course, subsequently, regenerating the Doctor became universally accepted. But it's worth remembering that at the time, changing the leading actor in a successful series was quite revolutionary. Hartnell's stern grandfather figure was replaced by a more Chaplinesque creation, and Patrick's cosmic hobo was born on the 29th of October, 1966. Pat himself was born on the 25th of March, 1920, educated at London's Mill Hill School, and trained as an actor at the Swiss Cottage School of Acting, where he gained a scholarship to study at a studio for actors in New York. Next to me is one of the monsters which became well known during the Troughton era, the Yeti. They made their first appearance in September 1967 in a story called The Abominable Snowmen, and this costume is one of the originals. Here's the only remaining episode of that story from Pat's second season. It is episode 2 of The Abominable Snowmen. Well, the Doctor immobilizes the Yeti, of course, and defeats the great intelligence who is completely controlling the High Lama. And Professor Travers does discover a real Yeti, and it's harmless. Now, you may wonder why we can't show you more of that story. Well, after it was felt the early Doctor Who stories had reached their full sales and repeat potential, the archive stock, including Doctor Who, was cut back, and Pat's era was affected most. The Yeti, for example, became instantly popular and made a rapid return in a 6-part story called The Web of Fear, a few months after The Abominable Snowmen. But sadly, only one episode was retained. Here is an excerpt. At the outbreak of World War II, Pat decided to make a rapid return home from the USA. He got a lift home in a ship, which was sunk by a mine off the coast of England. He survived, of course, and he served in the Royal Navy for the rest of the war, reaching the rank of Commander RNVR in the struggle against Hitler. Appropriate, then, that our next gem from the archives deals with a would-be world dictator. In this surviving episode from early 1968, Pat has 2 different characterizations: the Doctor, of course, and Salamander, the dictator, the enemy of the world. In this 6-part story, as you may have gathered, the Doctor impersonates Salamander, and, as if it wasn't confusing enough, Salamander attempts to impersonate the Doctor and steal the TARDIS, but is finally ejected into space. That story was directed by Barry Letts, who later became the producer of my era of Doctor Who. It's a small world, isn't it? And it was Barry's idea to reunite William Hartnell, Pat, and myself to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the program in a story called The Three Doctors. It was after working together in The Three Doctors, very successfully, I think, that Pat and I became tremendous friends. And I think it was I who persuaded him that it'd be a good idea if he came with me to a convention in the United States of America. This particular convention was held in Chicago. Somebody gave me as a present a water pistol, and Pat had been singularly rude about me, in jest, of course, and he called me the most dreadful things, and I hit him from about 12 paces in the eye with the water pistol. But this got a tremendously good reaction. And in the next session, somebody had given Pat an even bigger water pistol. and he got me in the ear from about 30 paces. This went on for the whole of the convention until I eventually finished up with a water pistol that carried a 5-gallon drum of water on my back and an enormous water pistol about this big, and I got him from the back of the convention hall with deadly accuracy, but unfortunately this was ruined by Pat's perspicacity by taking out an enormous golf umbrella and covering himself with it. So we kept this going all the time at conventions. We had this sort of love-hate relationship. The two doctors always like that against each other. Later, of course, we worked together in the 5 Doctors, and it was wonderful to work with him again.
Pardon? What was that?
It's a galactic glitter.
It's a Yeti. Where did it come from? It must have been left over from the games. You maddened it!
That Yeti gets everywhere. Now, I'm here in Studio D at Lime Grove, where the bulk of Pat's recordings took place. As you look around, you will notice that this is a relatively small studio. So all due credit to the designers and production staff who were able to use the space so efficiently. Obviously, the studio has been substantially updated since, but in many ways, it's just the same. Now, in chronological order, Pat's last appearance in Doctor Who was in the 1985 story, The Two Doctors, when Colin Baker was the incumbent of the role. Finally, we have an episode of a story that was partly recorded in this very studio. It is The Space Pirates, Episode 2. That was Pat's penultimate story, originally transmitted in March 1969. And the floor assistant, or call boy on the show, was one John Nathan Turner, later to become producer. And in Pat's final story, The War Games, he handed over to a suave, sophisticated, debonair actor, me. Well, I told you it was a small world.